What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Anime Science Explained, where we take a look at everything fitness and anime. There's training, bodies, all that stuff, and we try to explain it with the latest scientific research along with all my personal training experience and deduce, is it realistic? Is it possible? Can you do it or no? So in today's episode, we have 4 amazing questions. We have, would Jack Hanma's training be realistic? Is Guts' body possible for what he does? Would Deku's beach training work given that he had 10 months? And is Jotaro's body possible for a 17-year-old? So we're going to cover Jack Hanma first. So the first question is, would Jack Hanma's training be realistic? Now, I want to preface here that I said realistic, not would it work, because obviously it wouldn't work. Even in the show, it doesn't work. He is shriveled, he's weak, he's one of the weakest fighters at his gym, and that is because he overtrains. Jack Hanma trains 30 hours a day, every single day, punching a bag and lifting weights and allowing his body no recovery at all. So no wonder he isn't jacked, he isn't huge. He's literally using that anime logic that a lot of people use and proving that it's wrong. And that's why I love Baki, because for all the stupid, unrealistic things that are in that show, Yujiro Hanma, Baki himself, there's this overtraining lesson that it teaches you within the first season of the show. It shows that you need recovery. You need to work out all the muscle groups. You need to not overtrain. And it shows that through Jack Hanma being completely shriveled up, and even though he is one of the most dedicated dudes at his gym, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So with that out of the way, with that being said that that's realistic, I want to cover his steroid training. Now, Jack Hanma has incredible genetics. He's the son of Yujiro Hanma, and he had a steroid that was specifically crafted for how he trains, how he overtrains. And with that being said, I would say that that part is flimsy. You could say it's realistic, but he's not real. That steroid isn't real, so I will just say right there that it's not possible. But to go even further into it, there's even more reasons why it's unrealistic. You have people like Arnold who train for years on steroids and have incredibly impressive bodies, but that's because they followed specific plans and went through cutting and bulking cycles to continue growing muscles while losing fat. And remember, these physiques were only kept for a small amount of time. They took overall years to develop. Although I couldn't personally find a length on how long it took for him to go from shriveled to jacked, he has an insane body nonetheless. He always maintains a body that could win Mr. Olympias. Meanwhile, as aforementioned, the top competitors keep their peak bodies for about a week. And on top of that, he's one of the best fighters in the world. A study by Dr. Eric Helms showcased that these bodybuilders and that even Jack Hanma could beat go through insane preparations such as carbs, sodium, and water restriction and loading. So I'm just going to end it here and just say that for him, it's realistic if he just kept that body for that short amount of time, but he doesn't. He maintains it forever, and that's where it's unrealistic. And also, he's not real. His genetics aren't real. The steroid that he uses isn't real. So if you wanted to go through and take steroids and think that you can get that big, I would say no, you cannot do that. But if he wanted to do his punching bag training where he does it 30 hours a day and doesn't grow, then fine by me. That is realistic. You wouldn't grow, you'd probably just be shriveled. But if that's what you want, then that's how you do it. The next question is Guts' body possible for what he does? Now, to simplify what Guts does, Guts is shown training simply by just swinging a sword and carrying it. And with that incredibly basic information, you probably deduce that no, it's not possible. His body's like a Greek god. It's not possible for what he does. And that's just with the basic information. Now, with more information, I would say it is incredibly realistic. To delve deeper into it, let's cover some pros and cons to Guts' training. We'll start with the cons. 1. Guts has zero recovery. He doesn't sleep or eat well, he's always carrying around a sword, and he's pretty much always fighting. And 2, his training doesn't seem to hit all the muscle groups. Now here's the pros, and this is where his body gets realistic. 1. He works his upper body stabilizers and muscles like crazy by swinging his sword with control. He works his core by just holding out in front of him, and he trains his legs by just walking around with his armor and his sword. And I know this is a far-fetched, but when he does that jumping thing that he does with the armor, I would say that could be squatting. That could be, you could say that's squatting. 2, he's seen getting as much recovery as he can just by sleeping wherever and eating when he can. And 3, which is the most important part and what really makes this realistic, is time. If you told me Guts went through from looking really skinny to looking like he does now in 5 years as per se, I would say no, it's BS. His training is stupid and it wouldn't work. But he's been training since he was a little kid. So although that he has just terrible training, terrible recovery, terrible weightlifting, weight training, whatever you want to call it, he's been training for 19 years. And even though that training would develop muscle very slowly, like I just said, he has 19 years. And that over time, he would develop that insane body. Now, this is also given that Guts has probably incredible genetics. We don't know if he does, but just from a kind of guess, he probably does. He's got a perfectly sculpted body, no imbalances anywhere. So I'd say that if you wanted to train like Guts over 19 years, you need incredible genetics to look like him too. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't go ahead and join a band of mercenaries, watch all your friends die, and then get cursed for the rest of your life. I would just go to the gym. Our third question is, would Deku's beach training work given that he had 10 months? So I know this has been covered before, but I just wanted to put my own little scientific twist on it. Deku goes from a skinny, average kid to one with shredded abs and visible muscles. So is that possible? Yeah. On that beach, Deku does primarily strongman training with some normal training in the mix while eating a strict diet and following a strict training plan. Along with that, Deku has both newbie gains and his newly found testosterone from puberty to work with. And for even more backing for Deku, a study by Greg Nichols shows that younger individuals dominate strength sports. This study analyzed 4,385 people that competed in strength competitions such as IPF, IWF, and the Olympics. The study ended up finding that although all people in their respective sports peaked around the same age, the younger athletes did have a better advantage in weightlifting. Now, I want to preface that 1, this was on competitors over 20, and 2, these are numbers, not the bodies. Now, the study does prove that teens and people in their early 20s do make progress faster than middle-aged individuals. So with that being said, this study still proves that Deku would make faster strength gains, and with strength comes hypertrophy. So my final answer would be, yeah, he could make those types of gains in 10 months. Our final question is, and this is honestly one of my favorite because I'm a huge JoJo nerd, is Jotaro's body possible for a 17-year-old? Now, I already covered this on my TikTok, but I'll just go deeper into it here. Now, one thing I want to put out there is that Derek from More Plates, More Dates, whom does Natty or Not videos, states in his video about 8th graders squatting 500.
Like hyper elites in fucking professional sports, the amount of them are increasing.
And with that being said, even he understands that there are genetic monsters out there that do have these insane feats of strength and bodies. And from judging off people like Tristan Lee, who's only 18 and has this body, I'd say that Jotaro's body isn't impossible, but for him it likely is. Like that study in the last question proved, younger people do have higher potential for strength and hypertrophic gains, but even with the number of genetic monsters increasing, along with young people making more gains, it's still touchy, and that's mainly because of Jotaro's height. Jotaro is 6'5", and that means that his spread of muscle would be even wider, and for him to look that huge would be incredibly difficult. As for Tristan Lee, who is relatively short, I don't mean to call you out like that, man, but he is, it would be easier for his body to distribute that muscle. He's more compact, and that muscle would appear bigger on a smaller frame. So even with steroids and insane genetics, it'd still be incredibly difficult for Jotaro to have that body. Another thing I do want to put out there is that there's no proof that Jotaro has any strength training, which that right there, just saying that automatically takes away all possibilities that Jotaro could look like that. Now, with that said, I suppose if you were, depending on your height, your body, your age, your genetics, everything that comes into it, maybe even steroids, I would say that body is definitely possible.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little difficult to, nitpick, the research and all that stuff, but ended up working out in the end. So leave some more questions in the comments, and remember to check out my website, s-classtraining.com. Link will be in the description. But with that being said, as always, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.